Over to the NFL, where Steelers edge rusher T.J. Watt has agreed to a 3-year, $123 million extension with $108 million guaranteed, making him the highest paid non-QB in the league. When he signed his previous deal in 2021, he was the highest paid defender. However, it has since been passed over. T.J. Watt's $41 million per year deal will make him the highest paid non-quarterback by average per year in NFL history, passing Jamar Chase's deal earlier this offseason. It's been the offseason of handing out big bags to non-quarterbacks, as the 5 highest per year deals given to non-quarterbacks all time were all signed this offseason. Just got paid. That's exactly what T.J. Watt is saying right now. We got our football analyst Sam Otto with us right now. And Steelers, they lock up T.J. Watt, and to cap off a busy offseason on the defense that included trading Minkah Fitzpatrick for Jalen Ramsey and signing Darius Slay. How does Pittsburgh's defensive unit rank against the rest of the league right now?
Well, they're still in the top 10, but I think they're outside of that top 5 defense. Over the last several years, they've been 7, 8, 9. They've been consistently good, but they haven't gotten too great yet. Now, keeping T.J. Watt will help them get back there. Getting guys like Darius Slay and Jalen Ramsey, those help. But the loss for me of Minkah Fitzpatrick might hurt them more than expected. I understand that Jalen Ramsey has position flexibility. He can play all over the field. But Minkah Fitzpatrick is a multiple-time Pro Bowler, multiple-time All-Pro. And so I think they might miss him more than anticipated. So they're still going to be a consistent defense. But will they be number 1, number 2? I still like Philly. I still like Kansas City when it comes to those top 3 defenses.
Look, consistency is the name of the game out there in Pittsburgh, and sometimes that's what they're looking for. But, of course, also looking to get over the hump as well. Sam, don't go anywhere. We got more from you. Shay, what you got?
All right, Amina, we are less than 2 weeks from the first game of the NFL season, or I should say the preseason, as the Chargers and Lions face off in the Hall of Fame game on July 31st. The Chargers were the first team to really get training camp started yesterday. Justin Herbert was on the field, but one of his familiar targets was not, as wide receiver Mike Williams announced his retirement. As for the Chargers Hall of Fame game opponent, the Lions have their veterans reporting to camp tomorrow. Let's talk more about the Lions as we bring in our NFL reporter Courtney Cronin and Sam Acho here. And since, the NFC North was kind of all of our wheelhouse, we're going to stay there. The reigning division champs lost both their OC and their DC to head coaching jobs. Of course, Ben Johnson now is with the Bears. Aaron Glenn is now with the Jets. And so, Courtney, I'm going to you first. What has the chatter been like around Detroit and protecting their NFC North crown?
Yeah, the league personnel I've spoken with have emphasized the changes at OC and at DC and seeing how this team is going to fare. Because in 2023, we saw this with the Philadelphia Eagles. They lost Jonathan Gannon, they lost Shane Steichen. Team starts out 10-1, and then we know what happened after that. So seeing how this offense under John Morton performs after losing Ben Johnson to the Chicago Bears. Remember, this was the #1 scoring offense in the NFL, an offense that ranked top 6 in rushing. John Morton is their new offensive coordinator. He comes in from Denver. High reviews so far. Sam Laporta called him a brilliant mind. And on the defensive side, Kelvin Shepard has been in this organization for a while. He's got the respect of these players. But let's not forget, Aaron Glenn had to do a lot of moving and shaking last year. At one point in December, they had 12 guys on injured reserve on the defensive side of the ball. Losing 2 coaches who have been able to do a whole heck of a lot for this Detroit team, taking them all the way to the playoffs last year. It's going to be some big shoes to fill.
I guess the good part about that is they get some of those guys back from injury reserve. They come back from injury, so they're a little bit more healthy. Sam, let's talk about this from a player perspective, right? Which side of the ball is going to struggle more as we get started here in the season?
It's going to be the offensive side of the ball. Because you talk about some of the guys that they get back on defense, but there's a guy who left the team. He retired. His name is Frank Ragnow. He's been the starting center for the past several years. He's a 4-time Pro Bowler, 3-time All-Pro. And so you have changes when it comes to the coaching staff. But think about it. The people who touch the ball every single play on offense, the center and the quarterback. And now your All-Pro center has retired somewhat unexpectedly. I understand there has been conversation, so the coaching staff knew. But I think the loss of Frank Ragnow is going to be a bigger deal than people anticipate.
Okay, so that's something to keep an eye on. And obviously, the offensive side of the ball will not have Ben Johnson. Because why? He's now coaching the Chicago Bears. And so, as Caleb Williams gets set for year 2, but year 1 with Ben Johnson, Courtney, what is the #1 priority for one Caleb Williams?
Cut down those sacks. 68 is way too high of a number. It led the league last year for Caleb Williams. The Bears have done a lot this offseason to address that. They flipped the interior of the offensive line in the matter of a week in the month of March. Darnell Wright is their incumbent right tackle. It's the left tackle spot, Shay, that's going to be the biggest position battle in training camp. They have Karan Amagaji, last year's 3rd-round pick. They've got Ozzie Trapillo, who they drafted out of Boston College this year. They love him. He's only had 3 penalties 5 penalties in 3 years as a starter at BC. So those two during OTAs minicamp were switching up with the ones at left tackle. The caveat here, don't forget about Braxton Jones, the incumbent left tackle who had ankle surgery in the offseason. He was not a part of things during the spring. When he comes back, you've got 3 guys vying for one spot to protect Caleb's blind side.
Okay, and they're going to have to protect him quickly, too. Williams was sacked 15 times in 4 or fewer seconds, 7th most in the league last season. Now we go to our resident Bear. That would be Sam Acho. A successful season in Chicago, and Courtney and I might feel differently about this, would be what?
Winning in the playoffs. Not just getting there, but winning. I played for the Bears for 4 years. The Bears haven't won a playoff game in 15 years. And so I understand this idea of, okay, just make it to the playoffs in a stacked NFC North. No, you can't just make it when you're Ben Johnson. You have to be able to win in the playoffs at least one game. Caleb Williams was the #1 overall pick. Now you have, for people might argue, the #1 overall coach, if you want to say, in Ben Johnson. The defense got better and better. They built consistency, and so the defense is there. The offense, which was 28th in points, 32nd, last in the league in yards, should have an influx of production. So you can't just be a top offense and the defense struggle. You're the head coach, Ben Johnson. You have to win at least one in the playoffs.
What do you think? Win one or just make the playoffs?
I think getting to the postseason, obviously winning's important, but you know how tough that's going to be? They've got the longest odds. This division is the most stacked division in football right now.
But there are questions. We talked about it. Detroit's lost their coordinators.
Yeah.
The Minnesota Vikings have a new quarterback. Jordan Love struggled last year, and so making it is okay, but you can't just make it over and over again and not be able to win.
Look at you with the rose-colored glasses and the Bears coming in like the new head coach. I love to hear it. One Sam Acho, Courtney Cronin, thank you.
The NFL, where the Colts report to training camp early next week after an 8-9 season. The QB competition will be in the spotlight. Former #4 overall pick Anthony Richardson has a lot to prove after injuries and ineffectiveness on the field that has plagued them. To hedge their bets, the Colts signed ex-Giants quarterback Daniel Jones to a 1-year deal. Senior NFL writer Jeremy Fowler and Sam Acho back here in studio with us. And Jeremy, I'll start with you. Anthony Richardson coming into a pivotal year 3 after undergoing surgery to his right throwing shoulder and a setback after that. Where is Richardson physically right now as he heads into this quarterback competition?
Yeah, I mean, I just checked on this. He's physically fine. He's throwing the ball. He's working out in North Florida, getting ready to report for training camp. No setbacks right now. The Colts will have a plan, I'm told, for Richardson early in camp. I expect the first week they maybe take it a little easy with him because he had that inflammation in his shoulder earlier this summer. And then by week 2 or so, he expects to get off and running. He is focused on 3 things: winning the quarterback job, staying healthy, and taking the Colts to the playoffs. He's got a long way to go because Daniel Jones, I was told that last week at minicamp, was lights out, really good. So it's going to be about who's the most consistent quarterback. Head coach Shane Steichen has made that clear.
And look, you talk about Shane Steichen making it clear that he wants the most consistent quarterback under center. So when you take a look at this, Acho, who do you think gets the job?
I think Anthony Richardson does get the job, and I think the reason why is that competition brings out the best in everyone. I think that Anthony Richardson's best will end up being better than what Daniel Jones has to provide. Yes, they both are athletic. I think Anthony Richardson has a higher ceiling. Both have big arms. I think Anthony Richardson's is bigger. His issue has been injuries. That's been one of the bigger issues, the biggest issue for Anthony Richardson. And so now, with reports that he's healthy and now he has someone to compete with to make him better, I think the time and the maturity will help him win that starting spot.
A juicy quarterback battle in Indianapolis. It's been a while since they've had a good quarterback battle. We'll have more for you guys in just a bit. Shay, what you got?
Amina, for more on Indy, we're going to welcome in our sports betting analyst, Aaron Dolan, as we await of who is going to be the starting quarterback there, either Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones. What is the best approach at this point for the Indianapolis Colts, Aaron?
Well, when I'm looking at their win total, which is right now at 7.5, I am leaning towards the under here. It's hard to make a case for the over when we're not even sure at this point who is going to be under center. And if it's going to be Anthony Richardson, like we just mentioned, he's dealt with injuries. And on top of that, he was very inconsistent last season. Okay, well then you put in Daniel Jones when he was 22, 44, and 1 as a starter in the Big Apple. So I don't feel very comfortable at the quarterback position. But when we look at the schedule, that's really important when talking win totals. It is not going to be easy towards the second half of the season. They're going to have to face the Jags twice. They're going to have to face the Texans twice, Kansas City as well, coming off that bye week. It is not going to be easy to hit over this mark. And I know 7.5 is a tough number to gauge, but I am leaning towards the under right now in the Colts this upcoming season.
All right, and there's a lot of question marks there, right? So that makes perfect sense. You mentioned Houston. They have to play them twice. They're the reigning champs in that division. And so when you think about the Houston Texans, do you envision a repeat from them or maybe someone else in the division taking the crown?
I do expect a repeat from the Houston Texans. I really like them this upcoming season. Obviously, last year they underperformed a little bit compared to how they looked in the 2023 season, and some of that was due to C.J. Stroud and the numbers that he was putting up. But this is still a really good team on offense and a really good team on defense. And by process of elimination, we could just look at the win totals overall. Theirs is sitting at 9.5, and then you look at the Colts and the Jags, they're at 7.5, and then the Tennessee Titans at 5.5. There's still high expectations for this Houston Texans team. And while they don't have a very easy schedule by any means, they're going to have to play some really tough teams this year. I still think this is one of those teams that they can run away with the division once again. I think C.J. Stroud's going to be even better in his third year. I'm really excited to watch them, but I do believe that they'll ultimately end up winning the division once again and three-peating.
I mean, between the coach and the quarterback, it feels like the only team that's really proven in that entire division. Why would we go any other way? We appreciate it, Aaron. Thank you so much. Amina, back to you.
All right, let's continue the conversation about the Houston Texans right there. And Acho, you hear Aaron and what she says about this Texans team. Do they have enough to compete with the AFC elite?
I think they do. It's not just in the AFC South. I think they have enough to compete in the AFC overall. The reason I say that is I go to their defense specifically. DeMeco Ryans is a defensive-minded head coach, played defense in the NFL at a high level. But who do they add to that defense? They added Chauncey Gardner Jr., C.J. Gardner Johnson. And so for me, that addition, in addition to the offense, this is the weapons they got on the offensive ball. That, Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson, their pass rush is going to be great. So C.J. Gardner Johnson is going to be a huge addition. He takes defenses to the next level. So that pass rush and coverage working together, I think will allow them to compete with the elites in the AFC.
Now, C.J. Stroud and the Texans have a new OC in Nick Caley, and he's not the only new addition to that Houston offense. When you take a look at it, they also have Christian Kirk and Nick Chubb. How are they acclimating so far, Jeremy?
Yeah, Sacho mentioned the defensive stars. I'm going to go offense. They got a couple secret weapons, they feel like. Christian Kirk acquired him in a trade. Jacksonville is moving on, but they feel like he can work the middle of the field and be maybe a sneaky 900-yard, 1,000-yard receiver for them. It's Tank Dell. You don't know what you're getting because of the uncertainty around his knee injury. So Nico Collins is the deep threat, the do-it-all receiver, but they need a good number 2. And Nick Chubb, he is healthy now. He's been littered by injuries the last few years, but all offseason he's been training as if he's going to be able to carry a heavy workload alongside Joe Mixon. And you got the Jacksonville Jaguars, so it's an interesting dynamic with Trevor Lawrence. The pressure's on, there's no doubt. When I talk to people in Jacksonville, they say, look, we wholly believe in Lawrence, but they admit we're going on our third head coach in 5 years, and Lawrence is a part of that. So the pressure's on him to get the footwork down, make the easy plays. Luckily, he's got Travis Hunter. You're going to see him on offense a lot, but he did flash on defense late in OTAs and minicamp. So they're going to formulate a plan for how to get him involved on both sides. And then lastly, you got the Houston Texans. I'll be stopping there on my training camp tour, and I'm excited to see that guy right there, Cam Ward. The Titans' plan is very clear for him. We're going to beef up the offensive line. They have spent 2 first-round draft picks on their O-line. They've spent nearly $100 million this offseason on their O-line. So they are beefed up, ready to protect Ward. They got Bill Callahan, the trusted O-line coach. It's been one of the best in the game. So they feel like Ward is well protected. That should help him start early day one, as that's the expectation.
Look, the storylines are getting hot. That means we're getting closer and closer to the season. You can catch more of Sam and Jeremy on NFL Live at 4 Eastern. Thanks so much.
Chào mừng các bạn đã quay trở lại với kênh YouTube của mình. Bây giờ mình sẽ tiếp tục đi tô màu để gửi tặng đến các bạn. Và đây mình cần chuẩn bị đó là phun sáp màu. Đây là sản phẩm in sẵn để mình tô màu này. Đây là điện thoại để quay video này. Đây là điện thoại để mình quay video. Đây là giá nước điện thoại. Bây giờ mời các bạn cùng theo dõi quá trình mình tô màu. Và các bạn xem video của mình thì đừng quên ấn like và đăng ký kênh để ủng hộ mình nhé. Cảm ơn các bạn rất là nhiều.
Xin chào bạn nha, ngày hôm nay mình sẽ tô màu. Bây giờ mình sẽ tô màu các bạn xem.